Continuing right along with these I Am discourses, we're working on 20 through 23 in this video. I do want to mention a few things. It talks about psychic abilities and things like that, and I want to make it clear that, keep in mind this is from 1932. I'm not sure how much of what we call psychic ability fits into what they're talking about here. A lot of this really sounded like it was talking about fortune telling and things like that. I'm not sure if remote viewing would fit into that category. So just, I'm not a professional on the topic whatsoever. So, if this is something that touches a little bit home with you, just really go within to see how much of this is really applying to the psychic, what you call psychic ability, because I never have really been much into astrology and psychic stuff and all that. The way I was raised in a Christian religion, we were kind of told to steer clear of any of that stuff, and that's really what this material says as well. But like I said, I don't know if remote viewing and other things like that, because you hear about psychic ability helping to find people and things like that, but I'm not sure that psychic ability would be the proper terminology for that. So I'm just telling you right off the bat, I don't really know. Just take the information, look within to see what resonates with you. And we will move on to Discourse 20, which came out December 8th of 1932. We will go right into it here. I'm going to just read certain selections, and then I will end on Discourse 23, which is another one by Jesus the Christ. In Discourse 20, like I said, these are going to be larger selections than my last summary, so this video might be a little bit longer. But, beloved students, can you realize how great our rejoicing is? We have trod the pathway of attainment into the great freedom of mastery over all limitation. We rejoice to see you entering into this presence which, if maintained, will bring you certainly and surely to the same freedom. It is only when the outer becomes sufficiently obedient, giving all power to the great inner presence, that one finds peace and rest in this mighty acknowledgement. You are making such splendid progress. Do not let any fear of persons, places, conditions, or things interrupt or disturb you, for the presence of the light stands before you, beckoning you on, that you may be held in its fond embrace, receiving of its boundless riches of every description which it holds in store for you. I wish each one of you to go by yourselves sometime during the day for at least 5 minutes and talk to your I Am presence. Something like this: Great masterful presence which I am, I love, I adore thee. I give back unto thee the fullness of all creative power, all love, all wisdom. And through this power which thou art, I give thee full power to make visible in my hands and use the fulfillment of my every desire. I no longer claim any power as my own, for I now claim thee, the only and all-conquering presence in my home, my life, my world, and my experience. I acknowledge thy full supremacy and command of all things, and as my consciousness is fixed upon an achievement, your invincible presence and intelligence takes command and brings the fulfillment into my experience quickly, even with the speed of thought. I know that thou art ruler over time, place, and space, therefore thou requirest only now to bring into the visible activity thy every perfection. I stand absolutely firm in the full acceptance of this, now and forever, and I shall not allow my mind to waver from it, for at last I know we are one. Beloved students, you may add or weave into this anything else you wish for your requirement, and I assure you, if you can live in this, and I shall endeavor to help you do so, you will experience the opening of the floodgates of God's abundance. I think here that I should explain to you the most important, the most desirable thing that anyone can do is to fix within his or her mind the one permanent necessity, and that is to keep at it until one reaches so deeply and firmly into this mighty I Am presence that all love, light, good, and riches flow into his life and experience by an inner propelling power that naught of outer personalities may at any time, anywhere, ever interfere with. This is the object of true training. Now, I thought this would be really helpful for a lot of people that come from a Christian background, as I have, and you have difficulty talking to yourself as if you're I am. This is sort of coming from the outer, talking to the inner I am presence. So it's instead of talking from the I am presence, it's talking from the outer to the I am presence, which I thought some people might find a little bit easier to do, to talk from the flesh to the I am presence rather than directly from the I am presence. I did myself personally, I found this to be helpful too. Here it says, to find your I am presence and anchor to it is the only desirable thing to do. Until you come to this point of firm anchorage to your great I am presence, of course it is necessary to solve your problems as they come along, but how much better is it to enter in and set free that mighty presence, energy, and action which has already solved the problems before they appear to you. Is this not more acceptable than to awaken every morning and find these problems coming up, staring you in the face, as though they were something really important, which, after all, they are not? Yet I am sure you will agree with me that some of them, or at least your outer sense about them, is that they are tremendously ponderous. With the glorious obedience to the divine principle of created beings, you shall move along the pathway with your armor of invincible protection buckled on, until the intensity of the very light that you enter into will no longer require the armor. Let's see. When critical or disturbing thoughts try to find entrance into your consciousness, slam the door quickly and command them to be gone forever. Do not give them a chance nor time to gain a foothold, remembering always that you have the strength and the sustaining power of the mighty I Am presence to do this. Should you have difficulty in holding the door shut, talk to your I Am presence and say, see here, I need help. See that the door to this disturbance is closed and kept closed forever. I want you to get fixed in your consciousness that you can talk to your I Am presence, the same as you could talk to me, believing that I had limitless power, because I tell you, it is no idle comment when I say you can cause this mighty presence to handle every condition in your entire experience and raise you into its freedom and dominion of all things. As some of you have already reached into the activity of the universal substance, I want to call the attention of all of you to the fact that the substance of your bodies and this substance, seeming to be invisible about you, is immensely sensitive to your conscious thought and feeling, by which you can mold it into any form you wish. The substance of your body can, by your conscious thought and feeling, be molded into the most exquisite beauty of form, your eyes, hair, teeth, and skin made dazzling with radiant beauty. When you look into the mirror, say to that which you see there, through the intelligence and beauty which I am, I command you to take on perfect beauty of form, for I am that beauty in every cell of which you are composed. You shall respond to my command and become radiantly beautiful in every way, in thought, word, feeling, and form. I am the fire and beauty of your eyes, and I carry forth this radiant energy into everything into which I look. Thus you can cause to come into appearance the perfection which will give you all the encouragement you want to know that I am always the governing presence. I wish to say to you, who desire your forms to become more symmetrical, start your hands at your shoulders and bring them down over the body to the feet, feeling the perfection or symmetry of the form you wish. Through your hands will go the energy or quality which you desire to manifest. If you will try this with deep earnest feeling, You will be amazed at the result. This is the greatest reducer in the world. This, I assure you, will cause the flesh, as it comes into more beautiful symmetry and perfection, to become firm and yet supple in every way, because you are sending the energy of the I Am Presence through these cells, causing them to obey your command. This may sound ridiculous, but I tell you, it is one of the best, surest, and most perfect ways to bring about the perfection of the body. I tell you, anyone who will practice this will bring the body into any condition that one desires. I want the students to get the fullness of the idea that they are masters of their forms, their minds, and their worlds, and can inject into them whatsoever they wish. The pure and perfect life of God is flowing through you every instant. Why not switch off the old design and switch on the new? Do you not see how important it is to perfect the body? What can the inner presence do with a body that is sick or out of harmony all the time? When this is the case, the attention becomes so fixed upon the body that the I Am Presence cannot get the attention but a little part of the time. It is so easy if you will but do it. With this treatment of the flesh, with the energy of the I Am Presence, it becomes firm and perfect. That definitely stuck out as something that I wanted to share. Moving on down, here we have, your first consideration should always be to your own divine self, adoration to it always. This gives you the opportunity and strength to rise to the height where you can give help to thousands, where now it can only be to a few. No amount of service can be of any permanent benefit unless the individual first accepts and gives adoration to his own divine self, the mighty I Am Presence. Those who want to serve the light and really do good should understand this clearly. When students say, if I only had the money, what good I could do, it is exactly the reverse thing that you ought to do. If one will enter into the I Am Presence, he will have all the money he wants, and it cannot be kept away from him. Nice to know, especially for someone who's left the grind to do this. Okay, so we're moving on down here. Now, as we move into Discourse 21, this statement was very profound, especially when you think of all the truth seekers that are in our group. Any kind of knowledge or power is absolutely worthless unless used. Those who will apply and enter into the use of the I Am Presence with deep feeling will see and feel within your own beings, as they again come in contact with other channels of understanding, how transcendent the knowledge of the I Am Presence is in comparison with all other ideas of truth. There is no other statement or group of words in existence that actually sets such power into motion to accomplish any given purpose to which the conscious attention is directed as does this mighty expression. This is why Jesus the Christ coupled it with the most important statements that he made. Moving right along. The teacher or student should be quick to realize that no ignorance of the outer activity of the mind should have any power at any time to disturb him, even though directed at him personally. At all times, turn to your own I Am Presence and demand to know and see clearly the plan that you should follow. The Master's pictures and the instruction should be considered a sacred thing to the student. Adhere always to the time-worn statement, to know, to dare, to do, and to be silent. Because when students begin to discuss these things with unsympathetic individuals, they scatter the force instead of holding it within for their own illumination. Let the student forever remember that it is impossible to have a selfish desire or intent when reaching to the Master I Am Presence for love, wisdom, power, and illumination. The most important thing in any student's life is the love and adoration to his own mighty I Am Presence, with patience, to the extent that he becomes so anchored in his mighty presence that he is always fortified by it. I am the presence doing it. The use of the I am prevents the development of anything out of balance. I am is the all balance because it is the power and governing intelligence of all perfection. Its very activity compels the balance. There is not one out of 10,000 who understands that the awakening of the sight into the psychic plane is not a spiritual thing. When people begin to see on the psychic plane, they are but using the physical sight a little expanded and do not know it. In the psychic realm, the suggestions given offer just enough truth to anchor interest and hold the attention, until psychic forces get a good hold on the person. This always comes through the fascination of the phenomena. When one focuses the attention upon the I am presence, it will draw him into the fullness of the I am presence. The inhabitants of the elements are used for all activities of nature, but they do not prevent other forces acting, and they are not the only activities in nature. There are times when these great cosmic beings direct their attention to nature. Every thought sent forth by an ascended or cosmic being contains within it a perfected form. If that being's idea is on the manifestation of snow, or whatever it is, it would take on the perfection which was within his thought, because all thought carries form. Say, I am the presence entering into and revealing to my outer consciousness this activity. Then the outer mind would get the full inner activity and bring it into your outer activity. When people enter into the psychic plane, everything is distorted, and they have no definite proof of the truth. Those being in the psychic plane who seek to get others under their control begin to prophesy, and it is one of the first things they do. No one can take a stand against a messenger of light and not receive the reaction into themselves, because the light repels all that is unlike itself. And then we go into Discourse 22 on page 101, and it goes into some more of the psychic information. I will read quite a bit of it here because it was a lot of new information that was not covered before. The student must understand that what is called the psychic plane has nothing whatsoever to do with spirituality. It is a faculty of the human consciousness which can be brought into play by human beings who will give sufficient attention to it. But the individual who wishes to reach into the psychic plane alone, either consciously or unconsciously, had better never be born into that embodiment. The fascination of the phenomena of the psychic plane, I assure you, is most alluring. For those whose attention becomes firmly anchored in the psychic plane do not loosen themselves from it in that embodiment, and it may take several embodiments to free them. In all strata of consciousness, there is a fragment of truth unrecognized. Otherwise, it would not be possible for it to be sustained, because you must understand that in all things and in all activities, there is some, more or less, of the God energy acting, misused truly, but nevertheless active. The sincere student will give no attention to the phenomena of psychic seeing or hearing, but understands that he must push directly through, by the power of the inner will, through his outer determination, and enter within the electronic belt where only the truth is expressed. Beloved students, while it is necessary to explain this, I want you to make up your minds not to have any fear. Within the psychic stratum of thought and feeling is the principal activity of what we know as the sinister force in this world. Sometimes souls with splendid inner attainment, not understanding the true reality of this of which I speak, have allowed their attention to become drawn to this stratum because of the premature awakening of this physical faculty by a semblance of truth being presented to them and some phenomena enough to hold their attention. After the attention becomes fixed, everyone, without exception, will find that semblance of truth disappearing. One of these attributes, which is perhaps most fascinating, is the false prophecies which are made, causing the individual to make wild prophecies, and once in a while one being fulfilled in order to bind the attention more strongly. With this, there is also a certain substance which is drawn into the brain. I may not yet explain further to you. This makes it impossible even for the master to interfere to help the individual, because of his own free will by which he has accepted it. There are a few cases, however, in which the individual realized the mistake before he had gone too far, and by intense calling to be liberated, one of the brothers was sent to release the individual completely. There is occasionally a rare nature who, because of its great purity, passes through the psychic stratum without ever knowing it or contacting it. This kind of individual is very fortunate indeed. The forces within the stratum work most directly upon the feeling nature, and this means upon the passion of the individual, because it is most easily reached. And a little bit more before we move into the Discourse with Jesus. I understand, beloved students, that some of you who have been so interested in your horoscopes may think I am severe. However, such is not the case. But my love for you is great enough that I may speak to you the unadulterated truth. If you cannot believe the truth which I speak to you, then you must go on your way, for you are individuals of free will, which I have no desire to interfere with, except that I am privileged to point the way. My heart goes out with all its strength to the individuals whose attention is held by astrology, for they are so unaware of the pathway strewn with thorns which they have entered upon that will pierce their feet, causing them to cry out in agony, and only when that agony becomes great enough will they call out with all their beings and say, "O God, show me the true way." Beloved students, you who so earnestly seek the light, know that there is but the one presence that is your invincible protection, and that is the great I Am presence, God in you. Do not let your attention ever be held by these many outer manifestations, astrology, the power of numbers, spiritualism, or any of the many things that would take your attention away from the mighty I Am presence, which is your real self. If you turn to it at all times, it will lead you in the pathway of light, strewn with the rarest flowers, whose very fragrance will enfold you with that strength and peace that passeth understanding, with that stillness of the outer, which will enable you to enter into the great silence, wherein you will find the greatest invincible activity of God, the I Am presence. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all the outer things are added, or given into your use, under your command. That kingdom of heaven is the great I Am presence, the only reality of you, who is the owner and giver of all created and manifested things. The students must understand that they cannot divide their attention between the I Am presence and outer things, for it is a house divided against itself and must sooner or later fall. Great information. So with Discourse 23, we have another discourse from beloved Jesus, which I was so excited to come across, and you see the date, December 19th. We are almost catching up to our current date, although the year is quite a bit different, but as we move into 2018, I hope to be completely caught up. So we're reading from Discourse 23. For those following along on the PDF, it is page 106. The Discourse by beloved Jesus. In the fullness of my love, I come to you again today over the great light and sound ray, this time to direct consciously the healing ray to every one of the students. This ray I will sustain for 2 weeks every day, that they may have the radiance of the healing power. In my ministry to mankind among the hills of Judea, I stirred the latent memory within the inner record of mankind, and its work is still going on today. I wish the students to understand that preceding all conscious healing upon my part, within my own mind I was always conscious that I am the only healing presence, and as that unlimited I Am presence, I had the right, the power, and ability through that presence to command all outer activity of the mind to be silent and obey its command. Thus, when I spoke to individuals, I spoke with that authority of the I Am presence, which I recognized as the only intelligence and power acting, or that could act. I was conscious of the outer activity of the minds of those of humanity about me. But as I said to you before, it was only when I began using I am the resurrection and the life that the fullness of my mission and how it was to be fulfilled was entirely revealed. This is the particular point I wish to stress with the students today, that within each one of them is the same mighty I Am presence, which I used to accomplish the perfection of that mighty presence. This seemed to humanity at that time the performing of miracles. However, I assure you, it was but consciously setting into action and use cosmic laws that are ever about you, to be set into activity through conscious direction. The mistake that students make, and which delays their achievement, is in feeling that they are acting a falsehood in declaring the perfection they do not yet see manifest in their appearance or activity. I tell you sincerely from my own experience that we must acknowledge the one presence, intelligence, and power, then claim it as our own in our every thought and activity. It is the only way this mighty perfection can be brought into the outer appearance and the fullness of your use. Because that perfection has not yet appeared, seemingly should not deter you from applying and proclaiming perfection as your own. For anyone with average intelligence has but to stop and think that the energy, the life principle which he is using, is God, the mighty I Am presence. Therefore, its presence, power, and energy is always self-sustaining. In the claiming of this mighty presence and activity, you consciously set into action in your life, home, world, and affairs. Today, as in the time of my attainment, the financial struggle seems to be most weighing, and yet within the reach of your conscious manipulation and direction of the mighty energy, substance, and opulence about you. You have everything with which to draw to you that wondrous, omnipresent opulence of God. When you say, I am, you are stirring that into action to fulfill your conscious demand. One of the first and mightiest things that became clear to my consciousness was my ability, everyone's ability, to qualify this energy, consciously direct it with whatever the seeming need demanded. Thus, the energy may produce for your use gold, silver, money, food, clothing, means of conveyance, or whatever the conscious demand is. All this you must claim with determined conscious effort, which knows that in the conscious demand is the I Am presence, speaking and acting. Therefore, it has all power and authority to clothe whatever the demand is with its kind in the consciousness that you are the I Am presence, acting at all times. You then must know that you are that moment of recognition, an invincible magnet of attraction, which causes every activity of the universe to rush to you to fulfill the demand. The only reason it does not seem to be so is because somewhere in your consciousness there is a feeling of uncertainty, either of your ability, of your authority, or the omnipresence of it to act. But I assure you, as one having attained and having gone through the complete process of attaining, that it is pleasure, the privilege of myself and others to place before you these simple laws, yet mighty and invincible in their activity, which will give you freedom and dominion over all the things that seem to be such a mountain or obstruction in your way. As you continue to accept and use these laws in your activity, you will find that you are attaining dominion, not only over the element, but all four elements, earth, water, air, and fire. When you have become conscious of the flame of your divinity, you are acting from the highest of the four elements, which is fire, and the true activity of spirit. As the conscious activity is to the unconscious, so is the conscious use of the flame to the recognition of the light. The natural element of your soul is the flame, accounting for the ancient fire and sun worship. When one becomes conscious that he has, is, can use, and direct this consuming flame, he has entered into mighty power. When one becomes conscious that he has dominion over the four elements, he has but to practice its use to become conscious that he may direct the lightning, master the storm, control the waters, and walk in the midst of the fire unharmed. Will you kindly tell me how any being can have the use of anything until he acknowledges it and knows that he has the ability to make it his servant in use? Then by the practice of its use, he becomes absolutely invincible in its direction. I wish so earnestly to make clear to you that you are being given and taught the exact laws which I used, and which everyone who has attained the ascended state must use. It is all a matter of use. Once you know of these laws, and that the I Am Presence which you are has all intelligence, power, and authority to consciously direct the energy through the outer activity of your mind, then do not fear to use it to heal, to prosper, to bless, and to enlighten your fellow man. Erase your mind forever that there can be any selfishness in your conscious recognition that the I Am Presence is directing you. It matters not what you require for your attainment, wherein it makes you more able or of greater ability and power to bless. Then do you not see that there can be no selfishness in the desire for this greater attainment and perfection? For any individual to feel that he must wait upon the attainment of another is a great mistake. Individuals may attain only through their own conscious effort and this wonderful recognition. No one can grow for another or attain for another, but each may be of immense help to the other by knowing with intensity, I am the only presence and intelligence acting within that individual, for the one you wish to help. This may be qualified with whatever the person seems to need most. Every individual's first duty is adoration and love to the one mighty I Am Presence, which is everywhere present. Do you not see how in this it is a joyous privilege to love your so-called enemy because I am the only real presence and activity anywhere? If the ignorance of the outer activity of the mind seems to have created disorder, pain, limitation, then you know that the miscreation has no power of its own. There is nothing but the wrong belief of the individual to sustain it. Consequently, it has no self-sustaining power. If you have been unfortunate enough to create inharmony, disorder, limitation, then can you not see that you alone, through the power of your I Am Presence, the consuming flame, must consciously call on the law of forgiveness, consumed through that flame of life which you are, everything in your world which you have wrongly created? This should easily make it clear to you how you set about to cleanse your world of its disorder and its mistaken creation. Then you stand forth clothed with the sun, the light of eternal life, youth, beauty, and opulence, holding within your hand for instant use the scepter of power of the I Am Presence, which you are. It is important to know that this one mighty energy does all things according to the quality you give it, or the wish you want fulfilled. One thing students should be intensely conscious of, and that is, I am the eternal harmonizing presence and activity everywhere I move, and of everything to which my thought is directed. This constantly used with the feeling of its invincible power will keep the atmosphere of your world purified, harmonized, and held in readiness for any conscious direction to go forth with great speed to its accomplishment. When you wish to speak with authority, silently, to or of another individual, speak his given name, and you will find the help, the energy sent, much more easily received. It is like calling the attention of a person to whom you wished to speak. Naturally, your first impulse is, if you are going to speak to one of the family, you first say Don, Mary, or Dick to get his or her attention, and then you proceed to give your message. So it is when directing the energy silently. Within the inner world, in this recognition and use of the I Am Presence, knowing that I am everywhere present, you see how you may speak to one across the earth through the I Am Presence as readily as though that one stood in the room in your physical presence. I warn you, if you attempt to use this knowledge to harm another, then remember that through your own soul and body will pass the bolt of your intent to another. Try always to remember that you are not human beings so-called, but you are gods and goddesses in embryo, which through the conscious effort you can bring into full dominion. I say to you, beloved students of light, arise, awaken to the fullness of your God dominion. Fearlessly use the conscious knowledge and direction of this mighty I Am energy for your freedom, prosperity, blessing, and enlightenment. Each of you is a glittering, dazzling jewel of light projected into a world of chaos and darkness, that the radiance of your light may expand, and again expand, that all darkness of the earth be consumed in the mighty radiance of the I Am presence which you are. Do not hesitate, beloved children. Grasp the scepter of your power and dominion. Use it to heal, to bless, to prosper, to enlighten, and you will find all earthly things bowing before you and rushing to fulfill your slightest demand. Such beloved ones, beloved brothers and sisters, the one mighty presence which I am is the conscious ability I convey to you this day, with its self-sustaining strength, courage, power, and enlightenment, to go forth, attaining your freedom now with these personal rays which I project to each of you for these 2 weeks. I assure you, these rays are no idle fancy, but a tangible current of energy containing in it all things, and blessing you according to your acceptance. I clothe you in this mantle of light, within it is all power. I hold you close in my mighty embrace, and I am with you every hour. And that was another special discourse from Jesus the Christ, which ends on page 108. And then it goes back to Saint Germain after that. More exciting stuff coming our way with us, and I'm so glad you guys decided to join me with us. This is great information, and it's actually actionable intelligence, so I'm really thrilled. So thank you so much for joining, and have a good one.